welcome to another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast, one man's journey to read 52 fantasy books in 52 weeks and create 52 podcasts documenting the experience. I am your host, Mike Mogues, the man embarking on this 52-week, 52-book journey. And this week, I'm joined by the Don of the fantasy genre, Peter McLean himself, to talk about his TV, optioned, book, and series, Priest of Bones. Super excited to get to talk to Peter. The interview was a long time coming, and honestly, it came out great. One thing Peter says he does, and I'm not sure if he's going to do it for this one, is he reviews his media appearances and takes notes. So take a note of this, Peter. I had fun. A quick self-promo. You can find this podcast on all your podcast listening platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever else you get podcasts. There is also a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is the Swords and Sports Podcast YouTube channel. It is where you can find all these videos that I keep talking about. If you're looking for news about the show, you can follow me on Twitter at Swords and Sports. If you're looking for clips of the show, you can follow me at Swords and Sports on Instagram. I'm posting clips weekly or twice a week. And last week I said bi-weekly, but that is not true. So stay tuned. Let's get into these book details because I can't wait for everybody to listen to the interview with Peter, which is coming up in just a few short moments. The book is Priest of Bones. The author is Peter McLean. The paperback is 352 pages. This series is The War for the Rose Throne. He's on book 4 of this thing, and he's keeping it fucking going. It was published on October 2nd, which is my birthday. So thanks, Peter, for that birthday gift in 2018. I know it took me 3 years to get to it, but it's appreciated. The publisher is Ace Books. This book is, you're an ace in my book. Peter, Jesus, that joke killed it. The books in the series are Priest of Bones, Priest of Lies, Priest of Gallows, Priest of Crowns. I almost said Crows, but that's not what it is. It was nominated for the British Fantasy Award for Best Fantasy Novel, also known as the Robert Holdstock Award, in 2019. I think this is where he met Cameron Johnson. That story's coming up in 2 weeks, so there was no point in mentioning it. As a quick spoiler warning, this podcast contains spoilers for the following book, Priest of Bones by Peter McLean. If you haven't read the book yet, please be warned, there are spoilers. Without further ado, the Don himself, Peter McLean. I hate when it does that. It's like the worst intro. I am here with another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast. This week, I am joined by the one and only Peter McLean, author of the Quartet of The War for the Rose Throne, and he's here to talk about Priest of Bones. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. My first question is, I see this bench press in the back of a lot of your interviews. What are you putting up these days?
Oh, you know what? I haven't lifted for months, to be honest. I was around, last time I trained, I was around the sort of 90, 100 kilo mark. So about 220 in your pounds.
Yeah, I was going to say, over here in the States, we've got no ideas what. Oh, you're putting up numbers. Do you knock it out between sets of writing?
Well, no, like I say, at the moment, while I'm writing, I'm just focused on it. I mean, there's dust on these parts, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I kind of like this idea of just like hardcore bench pressing while writing. I think that's like putting a very like physical spin on it. I also, in your author bio that you use all over the place, it's that you alternated going to nightclubs and martial arts. Were you doing martial arts at these nightclubs?
On a couple of occasions, yes, actually. That was a long time ago. I mean, I'm nearly 50 now. This is when I was back in late teens, early 20s. But yeah, back in the day.
That's pretty badass. Got any good stories of just, dressed up in nightclub clothes and just getting after it?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm a metaler, so we used to go to a rock and metal club in my hometown, and I do fondly, he says, remember the night a bunch of neo-Nazi skinheads decided they could come in and start sea-oiling on the dance floor. And I think the last one left head first about 3 minutes later. You know what I mean? It did not go down very well.
That's awesome. I mean, if you're gonna start a fight in a club, that is probably one of the top 5 reasons to do it.
Yep, definitely, man.
You're a black sash level of
Yeah,
Chinese Wudang Kung Fu.
that's right. Yeah. Again, I haven't trained in years, but yeah, I used to teach a long time ago.
So you kind of have this like trifecta of just like completely different personalities. You're a writer, you're a kung fu former instructor, and you work in IT.
I do work in IT. Yes, probably the least interesting facet of things.
I guess it depends who's interviewing you is what part of that
Yeah.
triangle they're gonna find. Like, just what an odd like coming together. Just what a meld of a personality.
Yeah, well, I say I've been around a long time.
Speaking of a long time, I was reading an interview that if you could go back to any country and time period, that you would just go back to further back in England. Not much of a traveler.
I think English history is fascinating. There's just so much has happened here. We've been invaded multiple times, bombed. We fought a civil war. You know, so there's lots of interesting parts of English history you could visit. Definitely.
You said you'd see how Stonehenge was made, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, well, that's always puzzled me. It doesn't seem possible. It honestly does not, considering how old the thing is. I'd love to see which of the many and varied theories is actually true.
What's your prevailing theory?
You know, I really don't know. I mean, I don't buy into the aliens did it bullshit one little bit, but the fact that these stones were supposed to have come all the way from Wales or something, I just think, how? You know,
Well, Peter,
absolutely incredible. Love to know the answer to that one. If
well,
anybody watching thinks they know, do hit me up on Twitter and let me know your thoughts.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in any wild theory that you got. My theory is that they were just doing bench press in between writing. um, Speaking of getting jacked and doing crazy things, what happened with you in this grizzly bear discussion?
I don't know. That was the maddest thing. I saw a viral thing that was doing the rounds on Twitter. And it was like, the number of people that think they can fight off different types of animals is kind of sort of, ranging from hamster to elephant kind of thing. And there's some lunatics out there that honestly think they could win a fist fight with a grizzly bear. And I just pointed out, no, mate, no, you couldn't. And I think it got about 150,000 likes. So it's like, why?
It's crazy.
I don't understand. I do not understand. Twitter's so strange. You get this sort of deep, profound thought that you think, oh, this will get a conversation going, and you get 3 likes, and one of those is from your wife, kind of thing. And you post some nonsense about not being able to punch a bear, and half the internet's interested. I don't get it.
Well, you fall on the side of you can't take the bear on.
Oh, not a chance. Always bet on the bear, man. Nobody is fist fighting a grizzly bear. I do not believe it.
I don't either.
Moment. No.
What is that your most viral tweet?
Nope. No, I had one a couple of months ago that got over 250,000 likes for me agreeing with something some random guy said 6 months ago that I just stumbled across. And I had got no explanation for that. It was a screenshot of the original tweet because that's what I found on Facebook. And I think I just said, this is actually very true. I can't remember what it was now. 250,000 likes and a lot of shouting and screaming at me. And I was like, why? Hey, here's a link to my book. I mean, I'll take it.
Well, people were trying to get you to like advertise like sex toys on it and stuff, right?
That was the weirdest thing I've ever had off the back of my first viral tweet. I got an email to my public email address from some sex toy company I've obviously never heard of going, can we pay to tweet on your timeline? Oh, no. What? No, you can't, man. I don't know. I'm old. I don't understand the internet. It's weird.
I mean, for someone who doesn't understand the internet, you seem to get quite a lot of Twitter engagement. So you're doing something right.
Yeah, I do love Twitter. That's the only one I really do. I'm on Instagram, but I barely use it. don't go anywhere near Reddit. I don't like the site Reddit. But yeah, I do like Twitter. It's fun and it's where all my friends live. So it's Spend a lot of time on there.
Just so everybody knows, Pete might not be a sellout and have that sex toy company advertising, but I'm certainly available. You can email me. And no matter what it is, I'll say I use it. I am for sale. Do you think the person whose tweet you screenshotted was pissed off at you that you got that much likes on it?
I don't know. I got more likes for agreeing with it than the original post did, from what I could see. But I mean, I literally found it on Facebook. Somebody posted it in a, I don't know, random thread in some fantasy book group I'm in. I thought, oh, yeah, I like that. I'll have that. Slapped it on Twitter to say, this is very true. And it just absolutely went crazy. No explanation whatsoever. So
yeah,
strange.
Right. And you're out there offering real advice and real insight into the publishing industry, but try to fight a grizzly, talk about fighting a grizzly bear, screenshots and Facebook tweet, and that's what the people want.
Yeah, apparently so. I don't get it, man.
So super exciting. It seems like things are really like crazy blowing up for you. You've got this option now for the TV show.
Oh, yeah. Really excited about that.
And
there is no saying where that will go. And selling an option is not having a show made. Let's make that very, very clear. It's the first step on a very long road to actually watching it on the TV. But yes, it's a very good first step, and it's a major company that's bought the option. So yeah, I'm very, very thrilled with that, obviously.
So have you started daydreaming about who plays Thomas?
No, I have no idea. I've barely watched TV, so I'm not very current on actors. I mean, if I say Al Pacino, I'm picturing him at 25. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. There's a lot of. I mean, I would love it to be Tom Hardy. I'll be honest.
I was thinking the same thing.
The chances of that are probably nil, but that would be awesome. Or so I told you I'm hopeless at actors. I can't remember the guy's name. The gentleman that played Captain Flint in Black Sails, who I'm repeatedly told looks like me. It'd be quite cool as well.
Well, I've been told I look like a budget Tom Hardy. So can I audition? The right man for the right job.
That's the one.
Nailed it. All right.
The accent's not quite there, man.
That accent is awful, right? I could go in trying to play like Long Island gangster, but I'm not sure who's very interested in that.
You never know.
Man, Tom Hardy, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it really would, wouldn't it? He did a show, I don't know if you ever saw it over there, a show called Taboo.
No, I've heard of it though.
Well, that was really cool. It's set in the 18th century, and its aesthetic is exactly right for Allenberg, with the docks and everything's filthy and falling down. And I was thinking, yeah, it's marvelous. I would love to get whoever directed that to do Priest of Bones. I really would.
I'll reach out to them for you. I'm willing to just shoot my shot for you and just be this guy who goes for these Hail Marys. I'll DM Tom Hardy every single day.
That'll be great.
So I was reading I was going through your tweets, and you have some crazy stories. One of them is like kind of a sad story about your year 10 work experience.
Oh yeah. That was the newspaper, yeah.
Yeah. And
what was sad about that?
Well,
I forget what I said now, to be honest.
I mean, the person who trained you, like the second week.
God, yes, that was extraordinary. I don't think I'll ever forget that. For anybody that didn't see it, we do a thing over here in the UK called work experience when you're sort of 15 usually, and you normally, one of your parents reaches out to their company or a company of a friend or something like that and say, my kid needs to go do work experience. Can they come sit in your office for a week? Pretty standard thing. I think they still do it, but everybody did it when I was that age. And a friend of my dad's worked at the local newspaper, and I was interested in writing. I used to think I wanted to be a journalist. So I said, "Oh, do you think Uncle John, as I used to call him, would have me on there?" And Dad was like, "Yeah, I'm sure I'll make that happen." So he made that happen, and I turn up, and this was about, I don't know, 1985, 86, something like that. So it was the classic small newspaper office. You couldn't see across the room for cigarette smoke. Everybody was chaining cups of coffee and running around and all this sort of thing. It was exactly what I thought journalism should look like. It was great. I enjoyed it. And the lovely lady who trained me on what they wanted me to do, and I must confess, I can't remember her name, which was ever so nice. And spent a couple of days with her, and I was getting on with it. And she called in sick, and I thought, oh, okay, fair enough. And it must have been about a week later, because this normally only goes on for a week. But I was so good. I blow my own trumpet here. I was so good at it. They wanted me to do a second week and said, you know what, we'll pay you. I was like, yeah, thank you very much. I'll have some of that. You know, money being better than school holidays any day of the week. So I stayed on for the second week, and then one morning I answered the phone because I used to sit next to this woman's desk. Her phone rang and I answered it, and it was her on the phone, basically calling to say goodbye because whatever, I think her liver had gone, I think. And she was dying and could barely speak. And there was no one else there this early in the morning. So I got given her farewell, tell everybody at work I love them, it's been great speech. And by the time somebody turned up, she was sort of too weak to speak anymore and hung up. And 15-year-old me has to deliver this message to this room full of tearful, horrified, shocked grown-ass adults, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. So strange. It wasn't good. I'll grant you. That's stayed with me, that one. It really has.
I mean, just like the burden had to fall on you there, and all these people know her. Oh my God. Yeah. And I thought I had a hard time working at McDonald's at 15. I would have. My thing sounds easy now.
Yeah, well, it wasn't your average work experience, but I seem to collect these strange occurrences and things that don't normally happen. You know, I don't know how that works out, but
man, that is brutal. Yeah, what did you come home and like your parents ask, hey, how was work today? You're like, awful, like
yeah,
the worst it could possibly be.
I know, but I mean, this being the 80s, everyone just carried on working for the day. You know, there's no sort of being sent home with trauma kind of thing. It just didn't happen in those days. So
right.
We just kind of cracked on, but yeah.
Light up another cigarette, I guess. Just keep it moving.
Basically, yeah.
With your parents, you say you want Druss the Legend to be your dad? How do you think he would have handled that?
Oh God, I don't know. Druss, I love Druss. He's one of the great fantasy role models. He would actually probably have been a terrible parent, but clip round the ear and man it up, laddie. No, as a character, Druss is a great man, but I don't think he'd have been a great father. I really don't.
You mentioned that your mom used to read The Hobbit to you, and this kind of spurred off your thing. Absolutely. But I found, I'm a huge Hobbit fan myself. I got like all the tattoos and stuff. But I found more interesting was what's your beef with the Chronicles of Narnia?
Oh man, no, I can't be doing with that. I don't know what your audience is like. I have to be careful here. My mother.
Oh no, this is a hot take show. Please go off. That's good. Go right off.
My mother, God rest her, she's been in the ground for over a decade, so I can say this. She was incredibly religious in a very traditional English religion kind of way, which is slightly different to how you have it over there in the States, I think. And she loved Narnia. She loved everything C.S. Lewis ever wrote. And she's reading this thing to me. And I mean, not only is it about stuck-up Edwardian children that had absolutely nothing in common with me, I had every minutiae of the Jesus lion allegory explained to me as we went along. And Peter, this is why this bit's about Jesus. And I'm thinking, I'm 5. You know what I mean? I have loathed it ever since. And she gave up in disgust in the end and was like, oh, well, we'll try hobbits. I was like, these are dwarfs with axes. Oh, this is more like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's some hardcore stuff. Great. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to, make the dwarves seem like the 12 apostles there as they're swinging axes around.
Absolutely that. No, so that was the first fantasy I ever encountered and enjoyed. And I just sort of went from there, really. Lord of the Rings next. And then, Sword of Shannara, I think, was probably the next thing I discovered. That was quite new, actually. Then went back when I was first reading. But yeah, that's where it all started, definitely.
So do we have your mother to thank for Thomas being the worst priest ever?
Well, Thomas is really a priest in name only. I mean, he certainly wasn't a priest before the war. He got made a priest in the army in a situation where their priests are more like commissars. So it's the you hear the confession of the men, so you know who's up to no good kind of thing.
Yeah, I always think that war is the perfect place to find your priests.
Yeah, absolutely. But now every company had its own priests, and that does say it's riffing on the World War II Russian army thing with the commissars and all that.
So moving on a little bit, on April 14th, you threw a book across your room that you were reading. What book was this?
Oh, that was a non-fiction book. It was I can't remember who wrote it, and I probably shouldn't say anyway. But it's one of these true crime things, and it was called "I Am a Hitman." And by the end of the first chapter, I thought, "No, mate, no, you fucking are not." It was just absolute nonsense. But when something, if it had been a bad novel, I'd be like, "Oh, fair enough. Things happen." But when something is marketed as an anonymous true life account and is so obviously just made up crap, I was like, no, this is the fanfic you couldn't get published, so you decided to pretend it was true, wasn't it?
What about it was so bad? It was just like cheesy killing.
It was incredibly cheesy, and it was just the implausibility of it. If you expect me to believe that happened, mate, then you think I'm thick. You know what I mean? I can't remember the details now. It was too bad to bother remembering, but it got launched. Yes.
Was it like traditionally published? Like someone had to
I bought this thing in the supermarket. So
where the best books are.
yeah. Well, it's where the big sellers are, certainly in the UK. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, this guy's probably sold 15 times as many copies of his book than I have. So who am I to judge? But it was not for me. I'll tell you, it really wasn't.
You know what? I'm thinking, since this story is so not true, at least you don't have to worry about him coming after you.
Well, that's true.
You know what? That's a good way to kill someone, to throw their book at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got some books that are big and heavy enough that it probably would kill you if somebody threw them at you.
You could chuck the whole quartet when it's finished, just that once.
Oh, yes.
You'd be like, woo! So at what point is quartet the coolest name for a series of books?
I don't know if it's the technically correct one, but I think quadrilogy sounds awful. So I'm going with
oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah, that is a horrible word to say and try and remember how to spell. So yeah, I went with quartet. It means the same thing. So group of four.
What is there any like series for like 8 books or 9 books? Like what are those called?
Oh, I don't know. Well, eight books would be an octet. 9, I don't know. I think it comes to a point where it's just a series, doesn't it?
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many Dresden Files books there are, but it's a lot, isn't it? It's just the Dresden series, So yeah, I think once you go past 4, I think they stop putting a name on it and just call it a series, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess 9 would be like you got lazy at the end because you should have wrote 10.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the things I found interesting, and I was kind of wanted to get your opinion on it, is you talk about public speaking a little bit. And one of the things that you say is before you give these kind of conferences at your day job that you throw up in a bog always.
Oh, well, not always, but it has happened. Yeah, I think everybody gets stage fright to some extent. It's just a natural thing. I mean, I used to work in pre-sales at Hewlett Packard, so I'm used to getting up and talking to groups of people. It's not difficult, but I think subconsciously you always think it's going to be. So then, of course, you get nervous, and then as soon as you start doing it, I can do this. Fine, no problems at all. It's a weird psychological kind of thing. I think. Don't know if everybody gets it, but I know I certainly do.
Oh, no, I certainly do.
Bog is English slang for the toilet, by the way. I don't know. Actually go out and find some marshlands. That would be weird.
I'm going to be 100% honest. The follow-up question to that is, what is a bog? So thank you for clearing that up. Because I thought I was going to get
schoolboy slang for the toilet.
I thought I was going to get a very is this guy fucking kidding me with this question? So thank you for that. No, I mean, I agree with that. Like there is some nerves to it, but once it gets, it's like anything. The anticipation is so much worse than like when it
Oh,
actually starts happening.
always, always. That's like Joe Abercrombie says, isn't it? It's better to do the thing than live with the fear of it. You know,
Yeah,
it was
beautifully
very,
put.
very true. Yeah.
But you watch over your public appearances, like
Oh yeah,
how?
yeah. Always. If anything, anytime I do anything like this, I mean, I don't know if you're going to broadcast this with the video or not, but when I've done YouTube live events and done quite a few virtual convention panels over the last year, obviously. Oh no, I always watch them back. I think that's how you get better. You know, it's something they used to teach us at HP when I was doing sales training. Now, if they filmed you're doing your dummy presentation to the class or even a live one sometimes, you would be made to watch it back and you would be told what you did wrong. It kind of reinforces the message, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean this will be on YouTube and I do watch it back occasionally when I have to cut clips and stuff like that. But
Uh-huh.
how are you able to kind of detach? Because I just cringe. I think, oh man, I fucked this one up.
And that can happen, to be honest, yeah, but it's not, I don't know, I don't really feel that I detach. I'm analysing, I think. And not just myself, but the interviewer, other panel participants as well. Think, oh yeah, he handled that well, or remember that. No, that kind of thing. It's just part of the learning experience, I think. I mean,
Okay.
ever many of these I've done, I know I can still get better at it. I know there are things I do that I shouldn't, especially in panel conversations. Really, I do tend to hog. I talk too much. I told myself off for that live on a panel I did a couple of months ago. I was like, I'm talking too much. I'm going to shut up now. Let somebody else go.
I mean, you just had a lot to say. So, I mean, if we ever do a follow up to this, I'd like to be treated like an old HP employee, and you just tell me all the things I did wrong. I'm a firm believer in negative reinforcement.
Dear me, there's a thought there.
So, one of the things that I was looking at is that you say you kind of wrote the Birdman series by accident. Are you the best at accidents then?
I kind of did actually kind of write that by accident. It's I don't know.
I
It's
mean, my
it's
accidents are.
yeah. Not many people write a book by accident. I'll grant you. It just kind of ran away with me. I mean, it was the first thing I ever wrote that got published. No, second thing I ever wrote that got published. But I used to be on a web forum called sffworld.com that it's probably still going. I don't know, to be honest. Years and years ago. And we used to do little short story competitions every month. Whoever won last month would come up with the prompt for the next month, kind of thing. And I can't even remember what the prompt was now, but I wrote a short story called The Last Hand, which was basically the first chapter of Drake, but with a different ending, that got in their anthology collection they were putting out at the time. And I thought, thank you very much, I like that. But it just kind of, it wouldn't go away. Do you know what I mean? I thought, nah, I can have more fun with this, because the character was great fun to write. Poor old Don, he was great fun to write. So I thought, I'll keep going. I was chopping, take the end off because there was a bit of a end, should we say? So I took that off and I kept going. I got another chapter and I was like, yeah, I do like this. And I sort of had written a book before I really knew what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, like
Very strange.
my accidents are burning toast, dropping things. Your
Oh, I have
accidents
plenty of those as
are
well.
your accidents are getting published. I think.
Yeah,
Are you the greatest at accidents?
I've got quite a talent for accidents. Yeah.
What other amazing accidents have you had?
I don't think any of the others have been all that. Well, I suppose it's not an accident, obviously, because it was a very considered decision. But you could say I got my agent the very lucky way. So I had the 3 Burn Man books came out, and I wasn't agented for them, which don't do that, kids. Do not sell
Don't do
a
that,
book without,
everybody.
and don't do that. But anyway, I did that because you have to learn. Sometimes you learn the hard way, don't you? But no real harm done. And I'd started writing Priest of Bones by then. And obviously I was thinking, I really would like an agent, because I'd like to sell this to a bigger publisher, obviously, once it's done. And so, of course, I followed quite a lot of agents on Twitter to get a feel for what they like, what they don't like. A lot of agents post advice and tips, and 10 things not to do kind of thing, which is all good to know because, there's a lot of mistakes it's easy to make if you don't know their mistakes. Yeah. So anyway, I was following a lot of agents, and one day my now agent Jenny Goloboy at the MLA posted something like, "Oh, I've got an Amazon voucher. What should I spend it on?" Just as an open question to the world, as people do. And I thought, well, you know what? Fuck it. If you don't try, you don't get anywhere. So I said, is this wise question to answer to ask the herd of authors who probably follow you? And she said, well, actually, nobody's recommended me their book yet. So I was like, yeah, right. Boom. Send her an Amazon link to Drake. You don't try, you don't get, do you? And she replied and said, oh, thanks, but I've already read and loved this. I was like, oh, really? I might query you. And she said, oh, please do. So I did. I sent her Priest of Bones, and thankfully she absolutely loved it and has been my agent ever since. She's wonderful. I wouldn't be without her. So that was a kind of happy accident as well, in a way, because I don't know that I would have had the bottle to query her otherwise, to be honest.
P, this is fucking bizarre. Love or hate Amazon. Without that voucher, we might not be here right now.
Exactly that, mate. Exactly that.
Gotta look at the positive thing. That is a bizarre story. I love it. All right, I think we're ready to do some Priest of Bones questions. As always, this is a spoilers podcast, everybody. But if you are a longtime listener, you know the deal. If it's your first time, that warning will have already been said. But I've got some questions for you. Are you ready?
Go on, him.
When we meet Billy the boy, Thomas excuses Billy for his perceived inability to hold his beer. And he says, but he is 12. Is that a good enough excuse?
Well, I mean, obviously in this world, as in days of yore, people drank a lot more beer, largely because the water was often bad. And small beer is a different thing to beer. It's a completely different drink, and it was usually consumed for breakfast. The inference, I think, is that, would you expect a 12-year-old to be able to drink in excessive quantities, given in mind at this point they are in a tavern and drinking actual beer? So yeah, Billy was a little bit 3 sheets to the wind, but yeah, he was only young at the time.
Who do you think handled their alcohol better, Billy or you when you were 16 drinking Rocky?
Oh man, oh dear me, don't go there. Yeah, I think I've got to give this one to Billy. That was a bad night. So I'm told. I was absolutely blackout, man. I don't remember, but I do know to this day, at the age of 48, if I smell aniseed, I want to hurl. Still, it was one of those life-changing experiences.
All right, so we'll give this round to Billy. Though I will say, I feel like this was the start of the participation trophy culture when he says, Billy, it's okay that you're drunk. You're 12. I've got a bunch of Billy questions, so I'm just going to fire them up. If Billy can float, how far can Billy float?
Oh, well, we're only talking an inch or two. He was sitting on the table and just slowly started to, just sort of levitated about this much while he was concentrating. You're not going to see Billy flying or anything anytime soon.
I always like this idea when there's like this meditation type floating. What if they just kept floating up because they didn't notice because they were meditating?
Well, they wouldn't come back, would they? Yogis drifting across the sky. It'd be very strange.
All right. I'm going to take that as dumb question. I'm going to keep it moving on that one. What was Billy talking about to the rats when they were all piled up in old Kurt's house?
Oh, no, he was just trying to shut old Kurt up, basically. But by this point, Billy has realized he's wasting his time because he actually knows more than old Kurt does at this point. So, and then when Kurt asks him to get rid of the rats, and then comes back and Billy's just killed the lot of them with a thought. Oh, this is the point at which old Kurt thinks, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him.
Old Kurt, I gotta admit, for a guy who's been around as a cunning man for a while, kind of a softie. Scared of one.
He's a strange man, is old Kurt, and you'll find out why in Priest of Crowns.
Okay, I'm eagerly awaiting. Is it possible that Blood Hands is called Blood Hands because he's just a great midwife?
He's a great skinner, I'll tell you that much.
Well, this is my running. That's my running theory, or that he is part of the Bloods.
Could be.
I mean,
Definitely
we're
a
in a
gang man.
one of uh, along with the Bloodheads thing. One of my favorite parts of this book, and I know you've mentioned that like the kind of names come first and then the characters follow, but just some of these nicknames are awesome. Like Will the Woman,
Mhm.
uh, Bloody Ann, and then sometimes it's just simple to go with Cutter. What
Yeah.
are there some rejects of nicknames that didn't make it in?
No, I don't think there are actually. I mean, it- I always sound slightly like I should be in a psychiatric hospital when I explain this to people, but to me, the characters are real people in my head. Yeah. When when I first came up with Bloody Ann, I knew what she looked like, how she talked, how she walked, her attitude, what she feared, what she believed in. Our characters come to me absolutely fully formed, but I've got to have that name. I can't have like, I mean, I can have Stable Boy number two because he doesn't matter, but a
Right.
character that matters can't be. I can't just sort of call him Bob for now and think up his name later whilst writing him. I can't write somebody until I know their name. There is power in names. I maintain it.
Uh, yeah,
I told you I sound like a crazy person, but
I'm not any more crazy than anybody else. So your opener line, the 65,000 battle shocked trained killers come back to no jobs, no food. What the fuck did Her Majesty think was going to happen? Well, what did she think was going to happen?
well, it's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Thomas wouldn't have the faintest idea what the Queen thinks about anything. But well, I mean, what he's saying is, after the war, they just disbanded the army because they're all conscripts. There are very few professional soldiers in this world, and said, "Right, we're done. You know, fuck off home," and just abandoned them basically in the middle of nowhere with nothing to get home by themselves and find obviously that the world had changed beyond belief while they've been away.
Yeah, maybe she thought they'd be a good choir or something. I don't
No,
know.
who
Power
knows?
of song.
It's more of the case that she didn't think about it. You know, they're insignificant to royalty. They're just commoners, darling, and they don't get that degree of attention and care. I think I'm saying something about the treatment of veterans there and how once they leave the forces, they're left to fend for themselves. You know?
Right. And I think that this, without going too deep into it, offers a great, kind of insight into that in a way that like isn't thrown down our throats. So I
Mm.
think that it's very well done. If this was on Twitter, you'd have to post a cat instead of your political theories, right?
I
That's
probably would have to post a picture of the cat about now. Yeah.
What's
For
up?
those who don't know, this is my stance to doing politics on Twitter is anytime I want to go off on a rant about politics, I will instead post a picture of my cat because it's a lot more pleasant and achieves about as much.
I think that's going to be featured in the next Deepak Chopra book. This is how you find inner peace. Um, is the best burn in this book? Is it calling the mother superior the mother inferior?
I was quite pleased with that one, I must admit. It's a very Auntie Nade sort of thing to say.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Something about the simple jokes are just the
Mhm.
best.
I know. I am a simple man with a simple sense of humor.
Speaking of simple, is Simple Sam actually a genius?
Well, now there's a line in Priest of Lies where Thomas says to himself, "Oh, we're starting to wonder if Sam was quite as simple as we all thought." So yeah, they call him that because he's big and he's slow and he doesn't say much. It don't mean he's thick.
Right. Anybody who could pull off an insane prank like farting in Eric's face while he's sleeping can't be a simple man in my book.
Exactly that.
Was that like a school memory of yours that kind of made it onto the page?
Nah, not as such, but it's that kind of thing, isn't it? You know, it's the sort of stupid shit soldiers do, really.
You know what though? It's hysterical.
Yeah,
Um, is Alyssa one of those women who starts talking about at the first date, like how many kids you guys are gonna have together? Because god damn, she moves fast.
Oh, Elsa is, yeah. I'm going to be very careful of spoilers for books people won't have read yet, but Elsa is a very, very complicated person. And there are a lot of different versions of Elsa, depending on what she's trying to achieve at the time. So yeah, don't take anything Elsa says or does too much at face value.
I mean, I can't help it. I get fooled every time. Is the best part about being a mob boss the free pastries?
It's free everything just about on his streets.
But the pastries specifically.
Specifically, well, that was what Billy wanted at the time, and that's what Thomas got for him.
Thomas seems to have beef with mustaches. What's the deal?
Does he?
He says like something along the lines of, I had a mustache. And I made
Oh
as
yeah,
good.
yeah. He does, doesn't he? Yeah, well, I think it was the whole dressing up and disguise, and he just wasn't keen on it at all. But yeah, no, that's a good part. I've forgotten about that, actually. You see, it was going to sound stupid because I wrote the fucking thing, but the thing to bear in mind is I wrote Priest of Bones about 5 years ago. So, yeah, can't remember every single detail,
So
but
when I
no,
pick
that is a good
up
point.
these little details, it's like, what the fuck? Can't even remember what I said yesterday.
Yeah, well, sometimes things just sound right when I'm writing them. Thomas is not the sort of chap that would have a moustache, so obviously he had to grow a moustache for this disguise. So of course he hated it. He would.
Well, I hadn't seen a picture of you yet. At that point, I was wondering if you were just clean shaven and this was like a personal vendetta.
Oh
But
no! I'm well into the facial hair.
clearly, I see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it hard to confess to a teenager?
Oh God, yeah. He didn't feel like he had any option because he is convinced, and you'd have to read a prequel story in Grimdark magazine, issue
Good
18,
plug
I
there.
think, that I wrote. I don't get royalties for those. It's just a good magazine. But I wrote a War for the Rose Throne prequel for them, which is about Billy. It's kind of Billy's origin story. And Billy is convinced that Our Lady of Eternal Shadows, Eternal Sorrows, speaks to him. And she is the literal goddess of death, who Thomas is a priest of. And of course, Thomas believes it too, because Billy knows things that he shouldn't do. And he makes these little prophecies, and he's never wrong. And it's because he thinks the goddess is talking to him. Yeah. So when he came to Thomas and announced that he was Thomas's confessor now, Thomas is taking it as word of God and just goes along with it. And it shows you how blind faith is, I think, in this world.
Should Billy be taken to the Golden Chains? Because it's time to make a killing.
Yeah, but that's Thomas's business, man. There's no good ripping himself off.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, you know what? It was a half-cooked idea. The mobster's not dealing in drugs line. Is that that's like a Godfather thing, right?
Yeah, that is
Okay.
exactly a Godfather thing. Yeah. No, Thomas didn't want to go into the poppy trade at all, in the same way Vito didn't in the Godfather.
Right.
I like to put these little Easter eggs and bits from old movies and things in books to see who notices. I mean, there's bits of White Heat in there. There's the odd line from Scarface. I think, no, who's going to notice this? I'll be interested to see who's watched what. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the only one I got. So
Okay.
maybe I didn't do such a great job. All right. One of the things I do on this show, and to mixed success, is I pitch a novella idea. Can I pitch one to you?
Sure, go ahead.
So one of the big things in Priest of Bones is the right man for the right job. I like this novella idea of the wrong man for the wrong job, and just someone in HR just putting people in the wrong jobs and just chaos ensuing.
Yeah, I work for that company, I think, actually. But, yeah.
Is that person your manager?
No, not my direct manager, no. But sometimes, I mean, it's a big company thing, isn't it? In any big corporate, you look around and you find that some guy and you think, how the fuck did you get that job? You know? Every place has one.
All right. That was my novella idea. We'll say it had nothing. It had no detail. That was just the premise. Kind of like when you wrote Priest of Bones on a sticky note, and then the story came and followed.
Yeah, I did. I had the title long before I had the faintest idea what it was. It could have been anything, but it was just one of those random shower thoughts that you get. He's got Priest of Bones. Oh, I like that. I'll write that. Oh, I'll have that. Oh, thank you very much. I'll use that for something at some point.
This is just a general writing question, not specifically book related. I always like when the book title somehow makes it as a line in the book.
Title drop. Yeah.
Oh, is that what that's called?
That's what that's called. Yeah.
Okay, that's a badass thing to do.
It's sometimes. I know I did it in Bones, but obviously I haven't done it in any of the others. But whether it works or not, I don't know. It's a fun thing to do. It's like the album title is also one of the tracks on that kind of thing.
Right. One of the goals of this podcast is to kind of highlight the other side of fantasy, meaning not the stereotypical red in your mom's basement sword and slasher, man saves the helpless woman, and has no general appeal outside of magic and dragons, where magic solves all the problems and everybody's all happy-go-lucky. What about your books kind of breaks that traditional stereotypical view of fantasy?
Just about everything, I think, really. There are no dragons. There's very little magic. What there is, nobody understands. Bloody Annie's nobody's idea of a woman that needs saving. I work on the basis. I always tell people I write crime thrillers with a fantasy hat on, rather than write fantasy novels, because obviously they are about gangsters, which is unusual in fantasy. But they're also, for fantasy genre books, relatively quite short. So I try and write to thriller pacing rather than this sort of big sprawling epic kind of thing. So while they are obviously fantasy novels, there's not much fantasy in them. In all honesty, they're almost historical fiction, although in a rather fluid period of history, because I like to chop and change. And you couldn't say, oh yes, it is the 16th century, because it's just not. It's
Right.
very depends where you are and what social class you are and how much money you've got, really. But no, I don't think they're stereotypical fantasy at all.
Neither do I, which is a good thing. I always like to follow that up. This is also the number one podcast for dick jokes in fantasy, and you've got a good line in there. Can I read that out to you?
Of course you can.
Touched by a goddess, my wrinkly cock. That's just
you have, of course, read The Grey Bastards, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is the Lord God of dick joke books.
That is on the Mount Rushmore, or whatever the English example of that is. Up there on the elite dick jokes books.
Definitely.
One day I'm going to ask Jonathan French about those. All right, I think that's all the questions I got. I appreciate you taking the time out. Where can people find you?
Best place is obviously Twitter. That's where I spend most of my life. So I'm at PeteMC666 on Twitter. And website is talonwraith.com.
And people could buy your books wherever people buy books?
Wherever people buy books, really. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely that.
Everybody keep your eyes out for Tom Hardy.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Thank you so much for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, very welcome. Nice speaking to you, Mike.
Everyone always wants to talk about hating Nazis. How many people are actually in the clubs beating up Nazis? Not me or you, because I'm scared of confrontation. But Peter, he's got no fears. He's got a bench press in his background. He's hitting the weights. He's hitting the clubs. My man's a killer. Avoid him. Unless, you're a fan of his, in which case he's super fun to talk to, so don't avoid him in that way. Let's get right into these closing statements, because I'm dumb excited for what's coming up. Next week is part 1 of the Cameron Johnston Duology podcast series, an event unlike any other. Week 1, we're talking about the Traitor God. The week after that, we're talking about the God of Broken Things. So that is a 2-part interview series. How? goddamn lucky am I to get to talk to him not just 1 week, but 2 weeks in a row. So, after that is going to be Cold Iron by Christian, a.k.a. Miles, a.k.a. Fabrizio, which is what I made up for him, Cameron, to talk about his incredible book, Cold Iron. And then somewhere down the line, One Day in Life is going to be God Blind by Anna Stevens. That book is on hold. And then The Path of Flames by Phil Tucker. Thank you, everybody who was rocking with me all June. Shout out to the incredible authors I had on. This show doesn't get made without you guys. So I think that in order, those incredible people were Tavandra Whitecastle, Rob J. Hayes, Clayton Snyder, Gareth Hanrahan, and Alexander Darwin. It was a jam-packed June. Wow, that's almost alliteration. And it's going to be an even more explosive, that's a 4th of July joke, July. So keep reading or something. Peace.